You forgave them. Maybe it was a friend who betrayed your trust. A partner who lied to your face. A family member who humiliated you when you were at your lowest. You gave it time. You chose the higher ground. You said, "I forgive you," and you meant it. And then they did it again. If this has happened to you, you didn't make a mistake by forgiving. You made a mistake by misunderstanding what forgiveness actually does to the person who receives it. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this pattern over a century ago, and what he discovered is one of the most uncomfortable truths about human nature you will ever hear. Stay until point 6. Because that one will change the way you see every relationship in your life. Here is what everyone gets wrong about forgiveness. We treat it as a gift. Something generous we offer to someone who hurt us. And in our minds, that gift should create gratitude, change, loyalty. The logic seems simple. I forgave you, so now you owe me better behavior. But Nietzsche understood something darker. He wrote that the human will does not respond to mercy the way we expect it to. It responds to power. And when you forgive someone truly, completely, unconditionally, you do not restore the relationship to equality. You shift the balance of power entirely in their favor. Because here is the brutal truth. Forgiveness without consequence tells the other person one thing: your actions have no cost. And people, not out of malice, but out of pure human nature, will always push to the edge of what costs them nothing. Nietzsche made a sharp distinction between two types of forgiveness. The first comes from strength. You forgive because you have processed the pain, you have decided the relationship has value, and you are choosing, consciously, deliberately, to move forward. This forgiveness is an act of power. You are in control of it. The second comes from fear. You forgive because confrontation terrifies you. Because silence feels safer than conflict. Because you cannot stand the thought of losing this person, even after what they did. This forgiveness is not generosity, it is self-abandonment disguised as grace. Nietzsche called this the morality of the weak, the pattern where people dress up their inability to enforce boundaries as spiritual virtue. And the tragedy is that the person you forgive out of fear reads it perfectly. They may not say it consciously, but they feel it. They know you will not leave. They know the cost is zero. And so the behavior that hurt you does not change. This is why it always happens again. Not because the person who hurt you is evil. Not because they are plotting against you. But because human behavior is shaped by consequences. When a behavior produces pain for the person doing it, social rejection, loss of trust, distance, silence, the behavior slows. When it produces no consequence, it continues. You have seen this your entire life. The colleague who arrives late when no one says anything. The friend who cancels plans when you always reschedule. The partner who raises their voice when you always apologize first. Nietzsche wrote that the will to power is not cruelty, it is simply the fundamental drive of every human being to expand into available space. And when you forgive without boundary, you are handing them the space. You are saying, expand here. This costs you nothing. Here is the thing no one tells you about forgiveness. It was never designed to fix the other person. It was designed to free you. Nietzsche had no patience for self-deception, and he would have said this directly: you cannot forgive someone into becoming better. You cannot love someone into taking responsibility. You cannot absorb enough pain on behalf of another person to make them feel the weight of what they did. Forgiveness releases your resentment. It closes your wound. It returns your peace. These are real and valuable things. But they have nothing to do with what happens next in the other person's behavior. The most dangerous belief in any relationship is this: if I show them enough grace, they will finally change. And Nietzsche called this type of thinking waiting for the weak to rise through kindness, one of the great illusions of the moral life. People change when the cost of staying the same becomes too high. Not before. This is the line that most people never find. Forgiving someone does not mean accepting them back into your life at the same level of access they had before. These are two completely different acts, and confusing them is what causes the cycle to repeat. You can forgive a person and still close the door. You can release the anger without reopening the wound. You can wish someone no harm while keeping them at a distance that protects you. Nietzsche believed that the highest form of self-respect is the ability to make a judgment, to say, I understand what happened, I bear no hatred, and I will not allow it to happen again. That is not coldness. That is not bitterness. That is the dignified exercise of what he called sovereign individuality, the capacity to define, by your own authority, what is acceptable in your world. The person who forgives and immediately restores full trust has not moved forward. They have simply reset the clock to the moment before they were hurt. This is the one that matters most. The people who forgive most easily are almost always the people who were taught early and deeply that their worth depended on being good, on being understanding, on being the bigger person, on not causing conflict. And so they forgive not as a choice, but as a reflex. They forgive before they have even processed whether the relationship deserves it. They forgive because they were never taught that their pain was a valid reason to change anything. Nietzsche wrote, the most spiritual human beings, assuming they are the most courageous, also experience by far the most painful tragedies, not because life is crueler to them, but because they feel everything more deeply, and they give more than their share, and the world does not always return what they offer. If you have a large heart, it is not your weakness, but it must be protected by an equally large spine. Nietzsche did not believe in bitterness. He did not believe in revenge. He believed in what he called the revaluation of values, the personal decision to stop accepting other people's definitions of what you owe them. So here is what he would tell you. Forgive for yourself. Do it privately, quietly, in your own time, not to offer the other person relief, but to release yourself from the weight of carrying their wrong. That is yours to take back. But after you forgive, measure the person by their pattern, not their apology. An apology is words. A pattern is evidence. And evidence does not lie. Distance is not cruelty. Silence is not punishment. Protecting yourself is not the same as holding a grudge. The strongest people in the world are not the ones who never get hurt. They are the ones who get hurt, understand why it happened, and redesign their boundaries so it cannot reach them again. Forgiveness is not the final act of a relationship. It is the beginning of a decision. The decision about who gets to remain close to you. Who has earned the right to your time, your trust, your openness. And who, despite your grace, despite your generosity, despite everything you gave them, has shown you, through repetition, that they will take whatever space you allow. Nietzsche said it simply, one must learn to love oneself with a wholesome and healthy love so that one can bear to be with oneself and need not roam. Stop roaming back to the people who hurt you. Some wounds, once understood, deserve only one thing. Your distance. If this video reached something you have been carrying, the next one will show you exactly what to do when the people closest to you begin to show their real face. Subscribe, because understanding people is how you stop being surprised by them.